Thank you. I look a lot younger in that photo. I want to start. Is there a clicker? Here we go. So last week I had a couple of beers at the pub with an Irish friend, and I know that's the start of all jokes, but it's actually a true story. And he threw a great statistic at me, a fact that has really stuck with me. He said, "Do you know there's more people alive today than people that have ever died on Earth?" I was like, that's staggering. I guess the last 100 years has been exponential growth in the human population. Times very different from 60,000 years ago in indigenous tribal communities here in Australia to Mesopotamia to North America. And I guess that makes sense. We've hit 8 billion people now. Staggering statistic. I fact checked it yesterday and he was wrong. It's about 50% off. There's about 12 billion people that have lived and died, but it still stuck with me. And I think it's interesting for a number of reasons because we do have a lot of people, and a lot of people on Earth, 8 billion that we crossed in 2023 means a lot of new growth opportunities. Fantastic for industries like the berry industry, new markets, new people, new opportunities, and more revenue streams. But with that comes some limitations. To date, we have simply externalized the cost of business to two things, to both society in terms of health implications and to the environment. And I think what we're realizing now is those externalization of costs has to change, and businesses are now taking leaps forward to improve how they're externalizing those costs. Today I'm going to focus on, as was mentioned, the hidden value of packaging, but first doing so, drawing a bit of a picture around both the problem and opportunity of packaging in our modern society today. This week, my team and I went through a couple of stats that might be familiar to most people, but for every 8 kilos, for every kilo of blueberries that's grown and sold in Australian supermarkets, there's 8 plastic punnets, which equates to, of some simple chat GPT maths, to 700 grams on average per person, which is about 145 million punnets just for the blueberry industry. So quite significant volumes of punnets that are used. We are reminded at wonderful conferences like this, and certainly throughout my life, being great family friends with the Bell family, how good Australian berry produce is. I think it's something that you really feel at sort of opportunities to be at Berry Quest and know that we are leaps and bounds ahead of most of the world with fresh produce. Packaging has served its purpose to do three things: protect, preserve, and present. And it's done it really well. And I think it's been able to take what so many growers do, work so hard to do, growing organic or simply healthy food, and put it on shelf to get home so we can enjoy it as consumers. But it has become a problem. That externalization of packaging has become all of our problem today. We're well aware with the scenes that goes with problematic packaging and plastic generally across both industry and also consumers. And that has meant it's bleached into not just landfills, but into the environment, most specifically marine environments. We've all seen the stats that, about 9.5 million tons of plastics is leaving land every year and heading into the ocean. And that paints a pretty bad picture when you're talking about the Pacific Garbage Island that is now 3 times the size of France. So about 3 times the size of New South Wales, plastic just floating in between North America and Japan. That may seem far away and distant, but that has a significant impact to biodiversity right across the Pacific. I was fortunate enough to be in Indonesia last month with my family and meeting up my partner's family from Scotland who refused to fly all the way to Australia. So we got them to Indonesia, and having young 2, 3, 4-year-olds run around on the beach was a great way to spend summer, but also quite a horrific way to see the problem of plastic. It's the wet season in Southeast Asia, and every day we just saw rows and rows of plastic swimming off Lombok, straight past Gili T where we were staying, and even diving in and having a beautiful experience swimming with turtles. To see turtles nibble on plastic in the ocean is a pretty horrific experience. I'm not here to litigate the problem of plastic. I have mentioned its important role for great industries like the berry industry, but we do need to do better. Currently, Australia is number 2 for largest consumer of single-use plastics that goes to waste after Singapore, a stat that I think we can dramatically improve. Uh, Unfortunately, recycling in Australia is really not working. There's a lot of efforts to try and fix it, but as it stands today, we've missed our 2025 targets, and plastic recycling sits at about 18%, so quite low, and it needs to get a lot higher. I'm a former insufferable accountant, so if my maths is correct, off the 145 million blueberry punnets in circulation, that's about 26 million punnets that may or may not get recycled, with about 120 million punnets that will go straight to landfill. We know that consumer expectations have shifted and will continue to shift, and we're seeing that in real time, which is quite a positive thing. They're not shifting fast enough and wanting to spend extra money, but they're certainly shifting in terms of good advocacy campaigns and ways that they're talking about believing in more circular economy and regenerative practices. This is meaning that there's providing new opportunities for emerging packaging companies, groups like Stackback and others who are pushing boundaries to develop fully compostable or recyclable options. And that consumer sentiment is also being matched with a quote that Anthony Ponya mentioned yesterday, all of 24 hours ago, where he stated there's a tsunami of compliance requirements coming, and many, if not most, of us are at the beginning of understanding what sustainability means. So as consumer sentiment is changing, government compliance is coming. I just want to walk through what this compliance looks like, because I spent most of the week figuring out how companies from FMCG groups to retailers to suppliers can try and navigate the complexity of compliance. Scope 3 mandatory reporting, climate reporting is in place for major retailers, for major brands, I should say, for organizations turning over 500 million plus, which is effectively most of the growers' customers. So you're supplying into major retailers that will push downward pressure, demanding better packaging information with Scope 3 reporting. APCO reporting, so the Australian Packaging Covenant Organisation, has voluntary reporting at this stage with 2,700 members, but that will be mandatory soon, and it will be a need for every company to be reporting on the materials it places on market. We're racing towards an EPR scheme, which is quite a great thing. Europe has sophisticated EPR schemes that have been around for decades. So extended producer responsibility effectively means that you're responsible from cradle to grave, and the producer pays for the pollution you put into circulation. So instead of passing it to consumer and wish cycling it away, companies will be responsible from cradle to grave. With EPR comes eco-modulation. So eco-modulation is a form of fees that will be charged for materials that you place on market. So these might be conceptual fee structures coming into place, at least being discussed for a number of years, but we now know by the 1st of July next year, so 16 months away, every company turning over more than $5 million will be forced to pay fees for what they place on market. That fee structure is still yet to be announced by APCO, but effectively for materials that are complex or hard to repurpose, recycle, or compost, you'll be paying fees, higher fees for those materials. For materials that have a good end of life and a guaranteed end of life, certainly ones that are higher than 18% recyclability rates, you'll pay less of a fee. But in a market where there's already a lot of pressure on price, and I know that's true for the berry industry, listening to a number of presentations this week, it's an additional fee or on business for materials you're placing on market. To do this compliance reporting, be it Scope 3, APCO, EPR, eco-modulation, you effectively need good data. And that's a real problem in the materials industry. So there is a lack of credible data. And right now, for most companies we work with, even major brands, it's fragmented, disorganized, disparate, or doesn't exist at all. And as the old management adage goes, you simply can't manage what you don't measure. There's only one thing worse than paying a fee. It's paying the wrong fee, and that being too much money. So a desperate need to start thinking about collecting good data. Compliance reporting is a headache at the Sustainability packaging summit in Amsterdam last year. It was described in three ways: challenging, a headache, and a tsunami. So Anthony Ponya might have been at that summit too last year, but sustainability leaders and certainly procurement managers don't really enjoy doing it because it's an extra thing they've got to do in their business. From what we've seen working with Amazon, David Jones, Asahi, Starbucks, some other major brands, is that packaging data currently lives in spreadsheets, PDF, and post-it notes. We're really yet to find a company that really does collect and house their packaging data in a good way. And that makes sense. You focus on your products, packaging's an afterthought. So now we're getting sophisticated about paying fees and reporting that type of packaging data, that there is a need to collect data in the right way. Importantly, packaging data can become an asset. Whilst it might seem a bit of a tax or a difficult thing pulling it together, we have talked to some major brands who have done audits and figured out the tens, if not hundreds of millions they spend on packaging and turn that into an asset. Collecting that data enables brands to really think about how they're saving money, optimizing time, and developing a competitive advantage. Importantly, too, aggregating that data allows you to make better decisions. So, optimizing materials means saving money and doing what's best for sustainability objectives and making your CFO happy, which everyone wants to do. There's one CFO here, isn't there? Or a couple of CFOs surely around here that would always want to save money, which is the best thing with sustainability. So the future of packaging is smart in terms of compliance. It's all about innovation, from QR codes enabling supply chain transparency to reducing the amount of materials placed on market that come from nature, and bioassimilate back to nature, reducing impact. You can tell I didn't write that sentence. It's someone much smarter than me that wrote that, but that's where we're going with packaging. Companies that are collecting that data who are getting ahead. What does it mean for you? It means an opportunity, using packaging data to reduce costs, meet sustainability goals, and get ahead with compliance. So, fast forward, what does it mean for berry industry leaders and players and growers? It takes a compliance burden and a pain away and turns it into an asset to save money. And that's the advantage of knowing that a tsunami is coming and preparing yourself for it by doing the right things now. As I mentioned, the future of berry packaging. I'm being very biased to blueberries here, so apologies to the raspberry, strawberry, and blackberry growers, but our head of brand clearly loves the images of blueberries. But reducing cost is incredibly essential to collecting good data, meeting sustainability goals, and getting ahead for compliance. As I mentioned, we're really proud to work with some of the leading brands across Australia and collecting their data, storing it in compelling software, enabling them to make informed decisions and be ahead for the tsunami of packaging compliance as they save money and optimize their data. What does that mean for all of you? It means you get to spend time in the pub with your Irish friends, listening to their stories about facts and figures that may or may not be true, because you can get ahead with good packaging data and information. So thanks for indulging in this journey around the hidden value of packaging data. I know it may seem difficult or cumbersome, but there is a great people in the world, hopefully like myself and my team, that are here to support berry growers do their their best work, which is focusing on great produce instead of additional packaging and compliance headaches. Thanks again.